My name is Joshua K. Sabra Esquire, and with him as always, Dr. Miles Salisbury, and you're listening to the Miles Ahead podcast, the intersection between mental, physical, and spiritual health for those on the path of the warrior. Stay tuned. In this episode, we cover what a seminar junkie is and how not to be one, Miles's reintegration with the world, and how to identify your personal mission statement and rewrite your own personal story. Stay tuned. And we're back. So welcome to part 2 of the After Action Review, Connor Beaton's Men's Retreat, and more importantly, Miles's integration or reintegration back into society with that new experience, information, and reveals about himself and what he was missing. And he's still in a heady place, still working on, what his next steps are, like Bambi coming into the new world, wobbly legs, but excited for life. What are you listening to as you go through this process this week, Miles?
I have been listening to Imagine Dragons' My Life. I put it on my WhatsApp group chat with my cohort because it feels like it was the soundtrack of my life for the last few years. If you listen to the lyrics, you can see what I mean. And then before I had technical difficulties, we were talking about this, and Five Finger Death Punch, how it came up on the playlist the other day at work, or not work, at the gym. We were trying to figure out who it was, and we're all taking bets, and you got it right. It was the Wash It All Away song. So I jumped into the metal waters a little bit and downloaded the song. I was like, this is pretty good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Five Finger Death Punch. They're good. They do really good covers. They're intense. They straddle that metal, grunge, kind of emo trifecta. Big fan of them. I need to get back into them. Been listening to a lot of Soundgarden, a lot of old school grunge. The grunge is the real deal, the real material.
Which dates us, because that was our childhood.
Yeah, man, it's exciting stuff. Still good. Rusty Cage, dang.
I don't know that.
That's a song. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's a song. I thought it was a band. Like, who's that?
No, it's the Soundgarden song, covered by Johnny Cash, is also really good. But all right, so you're
After Action Reports, a review.
Yes, exactly.
Which branch? Which saying?
What's the definition? So listening to some metal, listening to some Imagine Dragons, I'll forgive you for that. And
you don't like them?
They're good. They're good. They're just mainstream. You have to take a piss on them because they're popular. Anybody's popular is gonna be.
That's right. We're in Portland. We're music snobs up here.
We're everything snobs. We're fucking hipsters.
I do not want to be a hipster ever.
Ever. Dude, I can't believe you're drinking Pete's coffee. Do you even know where that came from? Is that single origin? You don't even know, do you? You don't even know where that came from.
It is shit. Hey, I'm wearing a Black Rifle Coffee t-shirt, so that
I know you have good taste. You just like to pretend that you don't. You're a closet elitist. All right.
It's better than an open elitist.
It's better than letting everybody know, huh?
Yes.
If you're listening, this is Josh. I'm actually better than you, and I know it. Don't forget. But we're getting distracted. Okay, but you mentioned something really great. So we were talking about what's been missing since you got back, and so tell us about that.
Yeah, still discombobulated, still trying to let my conscious mind process what happened internally, energetically in my body, or in the unconscious, the stirrings. Let's see. I was telling you a second ago, I did highlight things I was missing and things that were problematic. Things that were problematic, it highlighted the fact that I was very stressed the fuck out, busy. And at this retreat, everything was done for us. Food was made for us. Phones were off. Beds were made for us. Cleaning supply, everything, other maids came, all that stuff was just like, relax, just relax. And I wasn't consciously aware of how stressed I was until I came back, and all the environmental triggers were there. And then there's this pullback to be the the old self. Like, this is the time you worry. This is the time you get depressed. You got to do A, B, and C. So I highlighted that. And then I highlighted the fact that I also was missing authentic and meaningful connection and or contact, as we were talking about connections with people and other men. I get it here and there at the gym with you guys, but it's, in passing. And I get it with patients, but it's different, right? It's for them, not for me. So it's not a two-way street. So it's kind of like highlighting those two areas. And then I'm trying not to hold on to what was at the retreat, sort of as like a bypassing of things I need to work with here. And I'm also not trying to just jump back in and be like, back in the Matrix, and we'll talk about this, like the seminar junkies where they go to a seminar and they go all fired up and they're like, fuck, that was awesome. And take all these notes. And then they come home and don't do anything. And they think, oh, something's missing. I know. I'll sign up for another one. So it's like, part of me is like, what's the next retreat? I got to do this again. There's that. Instead of integrating properly, it's like the move to either push away what's bad and not integrate it, or just hold on to what you had and not live in your normal life. So there's that push-pull going on within me, and it's also highlighted what has been heavy and what's been missing. So that's been interesting to think about and feel about. All my old coping stuff has arisen again. Like, I've kicked like using those fucking Zens for a year and a half.
What's a Zen?
That's those little nicotine pouches.
Okay.
They're super popular now. I don't know long term like what they do to us, but we know they increase blood pressure, and they're a vasodilator, so they can screw your blood vessels up, and you can get like erectile dysfunction. It messes with the small blood vessels and vesicles. You got to be careful with that. So I decided to like not do that, come off that, because I was starting to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5, 6 a day. And like started off with just 1 a day. And it was more like for the cognitive focus boost, which it does work for. But then I also noticed like, ooh, this makes me a little bit happier. Especially when it was raining. You're like, oh, this boosts my mood. And it started to become like, oh, I don't want to feel these feelings, when you use this as like a bypasser of those feelings. So now I'm like trying to feel like what we learned at the retreat. Where is this showing up below my neck, in my body? What's it trying to say? What needs are not being met? What is it trying to meet by doing this? So all those old triggers are coming out. So, and it happened in the retreat too. That one day I was sharing that I just felt this need to like use something, because we were digging into old stuff. It's like, oh man, a Zen would be great now, or like, what if they just handed out like Vicodin? All these weird fantasies of like just bliss and checking out. Like, wow, that's interesting. I've probably been doing that for a long time, like coping with childhood wounds and trauma. When I had ACL surgery back in the day, and I tried opiates for the first time because they prescribed them to me. It was like, oh man, this is like so relieving and amazing. And I feel like hope and optimism, like for the first time ever. And I can see why people would get hooked on it. So, yeah, those are a little bit dangerous. So just the pull to be the old self, use the old tricks that, they're palliative, but don't really move the needle anywhere, actually can pull you backwards over time. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm still kind of a mess in a way, but also stronger in a way. It's kind of paradoxical. They're fighting for battle right now. I think like the growth in me is fighting for stability, and the old parts are like, but don't leave me, don't kick me out, and I have to work with those parts. I'm like, no, we're not gonna kick you out. We're gonna help you to heal and mature, and that's kind of the work. If that's kind of IFS language, no bad parts. They're doing a job. They think they're keeping you safe, but the way they do it, like using substances as like the firefighter, as they say, can lead you down roads that won't help. So I'm trying to bring them along for the ride and notice them more and fuel them rather than kick them in the balls like I used to do. If this makes any sense, kind of all over the shop, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, so the parts that keep you safe, or the firefighters, or the ones that are seeking out the numbing or the coping, they're in this moment, do you think they are combating the loneliness of the sort of disconnection of everyday life?
Mostly it's dealing with stress, I think. When I feel stressed, it's like a way to deal with it, because I get to the sort of collapse stage. We kind of talked about this in the retreat, where in attachment you either go like, you don't get your needs met, you learn to be rage, angry, or you just collapse and do that fawning thing. And I had a bit of both. It was more when I was with my mom after my dad left, it was the rage. And then when I moved with my dad, with my stepmom, it was like, ooh, I got to collapse, because she was psychologically more powerful than I was. I don't want to throw family under the bus, but she's got some stuff going on. She had a really rough upbringing, and so those wounds were brought into the relationship with my dad, and then I didn't really fit in their box very well. I could rage against my mom, but I couldn't rage against her, so I had to learn to sort of be trickstery and had to fawn. And so when shit gets hard, I kind of collapse into myself and get depressed. So it's kind of that move, and I use the sort of stimulants to like get me up. The nicotine is like, oh, get out, do this. You have to deal with the stress rather than let it crush you and just procrastinate and go within. And then if I get depressed, it's the same thing. Like, oh, I need to get out of this depression. So it's sort of a catch-22 scenario. And I think with the opiates, it was more like antidepressant, also like doom and gloom. It just kind of would take that away, like, oh, hope and optimism, that warm fuzzy feeling like you get before you're about to go on a trip to Europe, like that anticipatory like joy. That's what kind of it simulated in me. But then when that goes away, it's like the pain's even worse because you haven't dealt with it. So that's what I'm talking about with fire. Those were my firefighting techniques. Once upon a time, it was the Xbox, or TV. It's not that anymore. For whatever reason, it just doesn't interest me anymore. It's really odd, which maybe that's a good thing. But then, missing connection with others, that makes me lonely sometimes and sad. Sometimes I'm very lonely, but I'm around a lot of people. This practice is super lonely, being a therapist. It's you with people, but it's not the same kind of connection. You're connecting to help them, but they're not giving stuff back to you per se. I mean, they will, but it's not like you're not paying you to do that. It's a one-way street for the most part. So you're with people all day, but it's kind of lonely, and in my own practice. And I have as a psychiatrist and another therapist here, but we see each other in passing, and it's more like, hey, how's it going? Not like conversations of depth,
Yeah, it's the modern life, right? We're surrounded by people that we are basically AI bots for instead of real humans for. And I think the excellent healthcare practitioner, or the excellent human, brings humanity into a transactional relationship, right? When you're present with the cashier who's selling you a bottle of water at the convenience store, that you bringing humanity into that moment where you make eye contact, connect with them. How's your day going? I like that watch. Just giving them a little bit of 3D humanity.
Yeah.
And but it takes that's a skill, and it's something that is not even is it not required. It's often avoided, because it takes energy.
It does. You have to feel shit.
So you're dealing with the isolation of everyday life, and you're noticing that there's a demand to cope, and you want to address it. Now out come all the tools, right? All the shoulds, all the actions to take.
Correct. And
you're being very careful with this. And you said something I want to go back to, what do you call it? The convention? No, you didn't say convention. The
seminar junkie.
Seminar junkie. Yeah. So tell me what the seminar junkie is, because I think I have a good analogy for this, or a good story.
Yeah. So you go to a seminar, you get all hyped, rah, 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 and take all these notes, and it feels so good. And then you come home and you procrastinate, you don't read your notes, you don't integrate, and you think something's wrong, and you go, I know, I will just sign up for another one. And you could get a massive dopamine hit, 3 days of Tony Robbins, whatever, which is good shit, but people don't apply it. And then I keep hopping to the next. And I even had that thought, like, what's the next retreat? Which is good, but like, whoa. Let's integrate. Let's not just bypass what's going on here. That's what I mean by seminar junkie.
Well, great. I was that person, and we were just talking about this earlier before the podcast. I was that person for years with my business, and I know of that sort of phenomenon. I didn't hear the name of it, but it's nice to put a name to that, because when I was doing that, I didn't think that I was looking for a dopamine hit or a fix, or I did want to connect with other people, but I thought I was, learning how to grow my business and learn new skills. So I go to these fitness conventions and, work with physical therapists and nutritionists and like learn what they're doing and all these different strategies. And it's really cool. And it is really cool. So I could do that all day. Like, it's amazing. But I would go back to my room at night and I'd look at my journal and have pages and pages of notes. Right. And of course, not all of them apply to me. But it also was very similar to the pages and pages of notes I had from the last one. Right. So
yes, exactly.
I started to notice the themes. I was like, oh, this is just another way to get traffic. This is another way to get a joint venture. This is another way to, implement a dietary fix. This is like, I know what these are. I had all these ideas, but what I didn't realize at the time in my business is that I had all these tactics, but I had no product. I didn't really know the product that I was selling. And in the fitness industry, a lot of times coaches get distracted and they think that they're the product. They think that their attention is the thing that they're selling. And in a way, they're not wrong, but that's not exactly what it is. Like, most coaches don't have an offer. An offer is, when you purchase this is the experience you get. These are the results that you have by when, right? So my offer is a transformation program, but I didn't know that until, the last few years, because I was going to all these seminars and doing, exactly what Miles was talking about. And it wasn't until I had to reinvent my business and I started to ask better questions and say, like, okay, so the people that I work best with usually have complex health conditions. They usually have to go through a few different phases of a strength training program, nutrition program, rehabilitative program. So they have a bunch of phases they have to go through. They sound like this. They're this old. They're over 40. They've already worked with a bunch of doctors. I kind of already can tell where this person has been based on the information they bring to our first meeting. So I began to realize that what I'm actually asking people to do is transform from the inside out. And people who just wanted a really hard workout and wanted to, get a bigger deadlift or run faster or drop 10 pounds, those people are great. And I love helping people with their fitness goals, but they don't really need what I'm offering. They just need a good personal trainer. They just need a good nutrition coach or something like that. So I started to refer those people out. And in the end, I ended up with this model of, we're going to do the same transformative work, whether it's one-on-one, in a group, remote course that you buy from, it's just that whether you're going to do the work, it's just how much support do you need along the way. And once I had that product identified and what my offer is, then I could use all those skills and strategies and tactics to support how I embed that, how I augment that, how I improve upon that customer experience so that people get better results, or they get the same result more easily, or faster. All these things that could be useful, but without the offer, I didn't really actually have a use for any of these ideas. And to bring it back to the personal level, Miles is in that place where he just came back from this really amazing experience. He's got all these new tools and wants to use them, and he's feeling the drag of the gaps in his life and where things don't make sense. Now he's got to go do a little bit more deep work. And instead of, and in the business, analogy I just gave you, with my business, I needed to create a a clear offer, a clear product. For the individual, what we often are missing is our personal mission statement, which is sort of our identity and what we're here on this earth to do and to give. And Stephen Covey talks about this in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, taking the time to write one. The book Essentialism by
Greg
McKeown, which I think I have your copy, Miles.
That's right. Yeah.
He prompts you to do that, do that work. It's not easy, but that is the kind of key to building your life the way you want it, the way that makes sense, to be in alignment with who you are. That's the work. And it sounds like, Miles, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the step that you're on today.
Sounds about right.
Shit, yeah.
Integrating. And we were talking about earlier at the gym, what were we talking about? Who am I? What are my needs? What am I about? Versus I've got all these strategies and tactics and voices in my head from my academic and psychological great-great-grandparents, great-grandparents, parents. It's kind of how we jokingly talk about we stand on the shoulders of giants, So I have all these theories and I have all these concepts and people's ideas, and you borrow from them. But at the end of the day, you have to integrate them. What's yours? Where you can use their stuff, but it's not your stuff. It's their stuff. So what's your voice? What are you about? I think that's sort of the next evolution for me. It's been a constant evolution, but I think it's coming to a head. Like, what do I have to say? And it's hard in our field because you got to have if you want to make a new theory, you got to do a psychological study and have it double-blind, placebo, peer-reviewed, blah, 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 before it's sort of legit. So
what do you need a new theory for?
What do I need a new theory for? Or what does one need? That's just the way. It's the scientific method. We're sort of one foot in the medical world. To say it's a proven evidence-based technique that you can use with your license in therapy, it has to be. It's supposed to be one of those.
So you're saying that you feel that your personal mission statement and your hard identity and brand, there's a part of you, you have this echo of the academic world where it needs to be validated by an external source.
Yeah, an authority before it's legit or safe to use or whatever the fear is. It's just sort of, we're trained that way. A lot of things I do, though, is just there's some things I do that are mine, or the way I will interact with people. It's not a theory or technique that's been studied. It's just what I do, and I don't even know I'm doing it. So it's hard to quantify.
It's almost like you're a person.
It's almost like a person. It's the relationship that ultimately heals in therapy. It's not the technique. That shit comes second. If you don't have good rapport with your person, they're not opening up, then these theories aren't going to do jack. So,
who first identified that? Because that's a quote from John Berardi. He's a nutrition coach who teaches a lot of other teachers.
Carl Jung.
Yeah, he says, and it's been audited. They've done studies that the success of the person, the largest input factor is having a positive, supportive relationship with their coach or teacher. Mm-hmm. So there you go. But he's still wiggling around the idea of creating a personal mission statement. So
I think we all are. It's constant work. I remember meeting Yangi Mingyur Rinpoche, who's a pretty famous Tibetan Buddhist monk, and is doing one of the meditation retreats at Naropa, and we got I got a private audience with him, which was really special. One of the retreat people running it knew him somehow, and we were talking. She got me they call it an audience. It sounds so royal. It was 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But you could ask him any question, and I asked him what path should I follow in Buddhism? Should it be Tibetan? Should it be Zen? Should it be Theravadan? Should it be Mahayana? And he's like, you could do one or the other. You could be like a bee where you cross-pollinate all these different flowers, and you take it back to your hive, and you have all these different flavors. Or you can stick with one flower and go really deep. I've chosen the other one where I cross-pollinate. So I just like shit. I like to get into things.
You or the teacher that you're talking about in this meeting?
What do you mean?
Did you say that that's what your teacher, that person has decided, or you, Miles?
I have decided to take the B approach. Yeah. Am I not making sense?
No, I just lost it. You were telling him you about the experience of talking to this teacher, and then you said and then I didn't know if that was the teacher or Miles.
Oh, no, I would never use his voice like that.
Okay. All right.
And then I said, no, he gave that advice, and he said you could do both approaches. And I took the B approach where you cross-pollinate with different things.
Okay, got it.
I'm just interested in so many things. I would get bored staying with I am only a Jungian therapist. You go real deep in the Jungian world, but it seems like you'd have I'm going to the gym. I'm just working my bicep. And I have this massive bicep, and the rest of your body's frail. That's how I see it.
Well, that is a different. I think that's the use of a tool or a specific skill versus a system of skills, right? Which is the Jungian method is a system. It's not like a thing, a one idea. But I would you draw the analogy of what school of jujitsu is best? It's probably the one you like the most.
Yeah.
And
or you like your teacher and the people around you.
and you can take ideas from any school and combine them, because that's probably what the Gracies would do.
Probably would do, yeah. Or some people go into jiu-jitsu and they just go as far as they can with that teacher and that cohort, and they want to get better, and they're just tapping on everybody. They're like, I need to go somewhere and get tapped out again, and they do.
That's right. So it's if you have a growth mindset, you're looking for challenge. So what we need is a framework for how to identify your personal mission statement. And there's so much good work on this. There's so many people. We talked about a couple of books a second ago. But you're doing it. Are you reading the book Power of Story by Jim Loehr?
No, but I've bought it.
Okay, so you have it.
I have it. Yeah.
So in that book, that was my first application. That was when I started to do this work. I read Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant.
Oh, that's a classic. And
then I read The Power of Story, and that gave me enough to go off of. So this work isn't going to be done. I don't think it ever gets truly finished. Great art is never finished; it's only abandoned.
Mm-hmm. Da Vinci, right? Isn't that a Da Vinci quote?
Or Andy Warhol. No. But
what is that? Churchillian drift.
That's exactly right. But I want to leave you with some ideas, and I do want to what is it called when you tease? I want to tease our next episode, where we're going to jump in a little bit deeper to defining what a warrior is for us for this show, because this show we're speaking to the warrior, and there's a lot of people have, it's a phrase that's been used for thousands of years now, and we have our own specific definition that we want to share with people, and so we're going to go a little bit deeper on that in the next episode, and lead in some frameworks and archetypes that will or dichotomies that you can draw from, because I'm a warrior, Miles is a warrior, but we're definitely two different types of people and two different types of warriors. But there's not one way to do it. So you've license for creativity here, and especially with your personal mission statement, it's as unique as you are as a unique person. And my first swipe at this was 2013, and I read that book, The Power of Story, where you write your shitty old story. So we're one of the premises of the book by Jim Loehr, this is again a great book, read it, is that we have a story we're unconsciously telling ourselves all the time. And I have a picture of it, of my original story saved, because it's so painful and so emotional that it until I saw it, I didn't know that's how I even felt. It was really, really, really important. So maybe I'll share that sometime. Okay. But he prompts you to write your old story and acknowledge the lies that you're telling yourself in the old story. Because if your story was empowering and if it was truthful and honest, it would be a good story, and it would be the story that would be clear, and you would live it a lot more easily and more readily.
How do you know you're telling a lie?
Great question. Well, you can look yourself in the mirror, say it out loud, and then the emotion that comes up, if the emotion that comes up is light and easy and joyful, probably the truth. If there's weight to it and the gravity of that statement pulls you down, there's a lie involved. That's the best way that I would say you could describe it. Is it says if there's a fear, if there's a heaviness, it means you're holding on to something that actually doesn't belong to that statement, to your story. So don't worry. If you're like me, you'll have plenty of lies in your story. So they'll be obvious once you read it out loud to someone you trust, which I did. And I was very grateful to have some people in my life who are able to sit with that with me. So in the book, you're prompted to write your old story. Then you craft a new narrative with some value exercises. But this doesn't have to be heady. It doesn't have to be complex. And I think in the book, they indicate that you should have a soft grip on your pencil when you write this, because it's something that's alive, and it'll evolve with you as you evolve over time, because your identity changes as you change. So when the first draft, I think Tony Robbins says, your life is an answer to a question, and most people are asking shitty questions, so they get shitty answers and they live a shitty life. And I didn't know what my default mode was outside of that story that I just talked about writing. So I just decided that my life, the question that I would live out is, how can I show love at this moment? And when I decided to do that, I felt really light and easy and fun. And I was like, okay, this is good. I can live with this. And that was basically my personal mission statement for a few years. And I had a lot of unresolved issues that are embedded in that. And I iterate over many years and many painful experiences. I mean, that was 10 years ago now. And my current mission statement, my current reason for being, is to facilitate calling forth the warrior within myself and the people around me. And that sounds simple, and it is, except for it took a lot of work and trial and error and watching where my feet move instead of where my head goes, because my heart constantly pulls me to coaching, personal development, developing other people. Service is a big aspect of my life. I really care about service, not just the service, but service of my fellow human. So, but I had to iterate over and over again the process of actually listening to myself, listening to my old stories, and rewriting them to get to that point. And it's something that's really worth doing if you've never done it on purpose. It's something that you might know in your heart. It could be screaming out really loud, and you're just giving yourself permission to voice that. And it could also be something that you write a few versions of it and it doesn't seem right, and that's okay too. You can come back to it later. But just the fact that you're on the path is enough, because you're listening to yourself instead of what Miles is not doing. Is he's doing a good job of, instead of just doing a bunch of shit that seems like what he was just taught, he's settling down and being more attentive and present. And he's able to make clearer decisions by moving more slowly, instead of just saying, you know what, healthy living, I'm just gonna no gluten. You know what, I'm gonna connect with men every day, so I'm gonna
Militant.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a hand holding session at the end of every workday.
Maybe I should do that.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like, dude, it's not bad. It's the execution of it that's inauthentic or bad.
Touché.
So yeah, again, teasing next episode, we're going to go deeper on the archetypes and the tenets, archetypes and elements of a proper story, and how we define how we qualify or define how warriors show up in the world and what they are and what they are not, which is going to be a lot of fun, and also maybe some extra tools to help you craft, if you're listening and you care about this, help you craft your own personal story, your own personal mission statement. So something you can be proud of and give great clarity to who you are and what you're about, and make your decision-making process that much easier as you go about your life.
I like it. Yeah, archetypes are big. There's a lot. There's more than just the warrior. Right now, the warrior and the sort of trickster are present, and I think they're two sides of the same coin sometimes. So it's like sort of the Arthur and the Merlin, the Apollo and the Hermes, the Thor and the Loki, and there are positive and negative attributes to both. Arthur can be a benevolent ruler, or it can be a dictator, or a warlord. Merlin can be an alchemist, or he can be a trickster, just like Loki. If you think of Loki in the Marvel movies, he's very much a trickster. He's out for himself. But then if you watch the show, he sort of uses that poison as the medicine and starts to help people and sacrifices himself for the betterment of the people around him. So archetypes have a shadow side and a sort of a light side, if you will. It's like necessarily good or bad. It's just helpful or not helpful. But those two have been very much present. And the Arthur, Apollo, Thor would be stereotypically in that warrior archetype space. If that makes sense. But the archetypes, there's so many. There's the lover, the king, the queen, the magician, blah, blah, blah. So we could do a whole 10-part episode on archetypes if we want to. But to keep us to the warrior, in the next episode, maybe we'll bring in some of these typical ones that I just talked about. And it'll help people flesh out for themselves what they want to integrate into their lives.
That's right. That's right. And the purpose of all this work is not to give your life more complexity, but it's actually to give your life more simplicity, because clarity is power. If you have a bunch of options in front of you and you don't know who you are and what's important to you and your priorities and values, then you're going to be confused all the time about what to do. But when you have all that, it's very clear where your energy belongs, where you're going to be the most powerful, and you're not going to be confused. In two good options, it's important to have good options, but the more success that you have in life, the more good things and even great things you have to say no to, so that you can continue to just excel at the most important parts of your life that make you the happiness, give you the greatest impact.
Yeah, that's super important. It's sometimes really hard to say no to some things, but you got to.
Yeah, that's right. And it's weird. When everybody goes through like hopefully everyone goes through a social phase in their teenage and 20
antisocial.
They're 20-somethings years where their social life is probably as important or more important than career and family.
Oh yeah.
And I love that part of me. And I also, that holding on to that part of me for too long made my life very difficult. And it's strange now to say no or to leave early, or heck, if a place has an open bar 10 years ago, I would have been there. But now I'm like, great, that's the last thing I need is a bottomless mimosa.
Right.
So, but that's the evolution of your identity and our identity. And if we're doing it right, we should be able to look back a year from now at ourselves and have a sense of even greater clarity and even greater calmness about what's important to us and who we are, and less confusion.
Where you've grown.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, that's right. So that's the jam. Do we miss anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, then stay tuned for we'll link the books in the show notes if you want to get started. If you want to investigate your personal mission statement and your story, your personal story, and we're going to go deeper into your identity, how to write your story, and defining what a warrior is on the next episode. Until then,
keep up the good battle.
That's right. Out.
Out.